So, ladies and gentlemen, this session is recorded and we'll make it available to you. So you'll get a link to it. But let me also turn on my camera and welcome you properly. So my name is John Meredith. I am a trainer here at Sumo Logic. Have been with Sumo Logic about 2.5 years, a little over 2.5 years. Before that, I worked for a lot of other companies as a technical trainer, or I worked as a DBA, or as a programmer, or as a network admin, or as an IT manager, that sort of thing. I also managed to spend about 20 years in the US Navy. In fact, that's how I started teaching. So I was a Navy instructor at one point in time. What you're seeing behind me is not a Zoom background or anything. It's my office. So this is what happens when the kids grow up and leave the house. You get to commandeer their bedrooms as something else. So repurpose them. So this is my office. And so I want to welcome you all to class. The only ground rule that I have, folks, is if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Okay. Anything I can do to help you, anything we at Sumo Logic can do to help you, we want to do that, pure and simple. All right. And of course, this is going to be a hands-on exercise. So we're going to have a chance to play in our training environment, chance to see these things firsthand. You have a chance to take things for a test spin. Now, if I have any Sumos here, you might be a little confused by the terminology. The focus here is on Cloud SIEM, and SIEM stands for Security Information and Event Management. So we're going to talk about the Cloud SIEM and the Cloud SIEM Advanced, which is how AWS sells our security products. So AWS, as a partner of Sumo Logic, sells our security products, and they call it Cloud SIEM and Cloud SIEM Advanced. For those of you who are Sumos, you know we call it something slightly different, and I'll explain that as we get further down the slide. So don't want to confuse anybody, but this is from the perspective of AWS. And as you know, we are an AWS partner. In fact, we were the ISV Vendor of the Year this past year at reInvent in Vegas. So we've got a terrific partnership with AWS. Game plan here, we're going to talk a little bit about doing a security demo and doing security analytics with Cloud SIEM. Again, that's the branding that we use for AWS. Then we're going to talk about AWS GuardDuty application and how you can take advantage of some of the AWS functionality there as well. And we're going to talk about CrowdStrike and the threat intel app and testing it, and monitoring users, different users login. So this first,
now the most important.
Is there a question? Okay. This first slide is really all about the Cloud SIEM, what we're calling Cloud SIEM powered by AWS portion. Again, what we at Sumo would call security analytics. And then the second part of this is where we get into the Cloud SIEM product, which again at Sumo we would call that Cloud SIEM, but here in AWS land they call it Cloud SIEM Advanced. So not trying to confuse you, just making sure that you're aware of it. And we'll walk you through that. We'll play around with that. The other thing is that if you want to, there is an exam that you can take at the end of this to get certified on this. It takes about 30 minutes, and I'll provide you that information as well. Also, additionally, when we wrap up, I'll tell you about other classes that are typically our certification classes run about 2 hours long. And then they have an hour for an exam. So we have 10 different certifications. By the way, obviously the focus here is on security, but Sumo Logic also, besides security being one of our major strengths, we also focus on observability. And if you're an AWS customer, being able to see across your AWS environments, seeing across the transparencies of those things, we've got some great solutions to help you there as well. So again, my only ask is if you've got questions, feel free to let me know. And otherwise, I'm going to stop the streaming video here and let's go ahead and get started. So those of you not familiar with Sumo Logic, we typically ingest log and metric data. So if you're an AWS customer, you know, you've got S3 logs, you've got AWS logs, you've got CloudTrail logs, you've got all kinds of logs. If you're not an AWS customer, you've got logs anyway, logs from your firewall, logs from your Windows environments or whatever your operating system environments and that sort of thing. So we ingest those logs and we make it easy for you to see what's going on from, say, an operational perspective. Are my systems up? Are they down? What's going on? Particularly given the complexity of web and cloud environments, that's kind of hard to see. It's kind of like a murder mystery, you know, where or Professor Plum shot Miss Scarlet in the library with, so many different variables, so many different microservices. Seeing across that's kind of challenging, but we make it fairly easy and fairly seamless. So that's one aspect of our product. Another aspect is obviously security, and that's what you're here for. So when we look at security, for example, we can see maybe where people are logging in from. Does that make sense? When people log in, what browsers are they logging in from? What port activity are we seeing? Are people logging in within a relatively short period of time from two different IP addresses that are geographically separated where it's impossible travel? So, we call that a land speed violation. So you can obviously use Sumo Logic for that, as well as business intelligence, right? You're running a special promotion. Are we seeing the orders come in based on that special promotion? If we've stood up some new aspect of our website, is it starting to see traffic? What is going on with the business overall? And then at a very high level, we can look at operational intelligence, security intelligence, and business intelligence through our tool to see what's happening. A good example of this is AWS Guard Duty. If AWS Guard Duty tells us there's an attack going on somewhere in the world, we can see perhaps who's affected, and you can see perhaps who's affected. So again, kind of nice to see what's happening in the world of things. As far as your data, again, it could be regular applications, could be microservices, you could be on the cloud running software as a service type things like Office 365 or Salesforce, which, by the way, our product is a software as a service, just to be frank. Mobile devices, third-party apps, we don't care where it comes from, because ultimately these systems all generate logs. We can ingest those logs, read those logs, and turn it into some interesting, intelligent information. Now, Sumo Logic is born in the cloud, raised in the cloud. We run on AWS. It is scalable, so as you need more resources, we can assign them. If you need less resources, we'll scale back, try to save you some money. We have a big functionality here of machine learning and advanced analytics as well. And we also have a bunch of API functionality, API usage, so that you can programmatically make connections to Sumo from other tools, as well as you can programmatically make hooks from Sumo to other tools. Like, for example, if you want to send a message to Slack or Teams or something like that, you can do that through the APIs as well. Our big thing that I think is probably significant out here is this area right here that I'm pointing to. We have gone out and achieved various certifications like SOC 2 compliance, CSA STAR compliance. We are FedRAMP moderate authorized, PCI compliant, those sort of things. And we work with great rigor to maintain those standards. So I want to make sure you're aware of it. Okay. So a question was asked by Jefferson here, general question, okay. Does the AWS-centric security service address logs that are produced from within the Kubernetes container images? Yes, you can take advantage of that because, again, you've got Kubernetes generating information, and of course, you've got AWS generating various information. So if you're running Kubernetes on AWS, we can also look at some security information there. But I suspect more of your security data is going to come from things like Guard Duty, CloudTrail, the authentication systems of AWS. But yes, you can grab it from Kubernetes. I hope that answers your question. No problem. Which, of course, we've got another, we obviously work well with Kubernetes as far as being able to see how your Kubernetes environments are going. So as I said, the two pillars here at Sumo Logic are observability and security. And under the observability pillar, it's where we typically can see across your environments, see your Kubernetes environments and all that cool stuff. So, but that's not going to be the focus of today's conversation. So we think in terms of security intelligence solutions, there's probably three layers to this, okay? There's audit and compliance. You want to make sure your company's within your compliance standards. You want to be able to do independent audits, things along those lines. We typically have built-in applications, compliance applications that I'll show you in a little bit, that you can install and use to see who's doing what, what's going on, that sort of thing. If we don't have a built-in app for it, then you might need to create your own query. And in Sumo Logic, you can take your log or metric data and you can create queries and create visualizations like this map or like this bar chart, various other visualizations to see what's going on. So you can create searches, dashboards, alerts, all kinds of things here. Now, normally in Sumo Logic language, as far as a product, we call this cloud security and analytics. But through our partnership with AWS, they call it Cloud SIEM. Okay. And then we also have our Cloud SIEM Advanced, which is marketed by AWS that way. This is our Cloud SIEM product. Our focus today is going to be on all three of these areas. So we're going to just give you a quick little harbor tour of these three areas, a chance to play around. So again, audit compliance, Cloud SIEM, and Cloud SIEM Advanced. All right. In our Cloud SIEM, where you can create searches, create those dashboards and alerts using a bunch of advanced analytics, we also have some partnerships that will help you with this. For example, we have a partnership with a company called Newstar, where we can send it an IP address, and it can tell us the geographic location, the latitude, the longitude, the country name, and stuff of that IP address. We also have a partnership with CrowdStrike. And through CrowdStrike and through Sumo Logic, you can take an IP address, a domain name, whatever you want, and you can send it to CrowdStrike, and CrowdStrike will give you information about that. Is that a maliciously known IP address or domain name? You know, who's the actors responsible for that? You know, are they nation state actors, or these, you know, that sort of thing. So we've got a whole bunch of built-in functionality that I think you'll be able to take good advantage of. So as I said before, we've got close to 200 built-in out-of-the-box applications. So if you happen to be using Okta or Office 365 or Salesforce or whatever, you can install these apps, connect them to your logs from that system, from Salesforce or from Active Directory or from whatever. And then you'll be able to see the data on those dashboards to see what is going on. And in a minute, I'll show you where you can see those various applications. Again, this is all built out of the box, built-in dashboards. And if you want to, you can go in and customize those dashboards even more by modifying some of the queries. So we're going to focus on a couple of applications here. We're going to talk about, you know, some threats, all that fun stuff. Again, this is taking advantage of CrowdStrike, giving us some intelligence on our threat data so we can see basically what's happening. Again, as I said, we have a partnership with CrowdStrike, so that you can use through our tool, you can look up by IP, file name, URL, hash, email, whatever, information about that you can send to CrowdStrike, and they can tell you about these threats and these issues and stuff. So let me give you a quick little security overview demo. Let me stop the slides here for just a second. Let me go out to, oops, excuse me, let me go out to service.sumologic.com. This is our training environment. And in a minute, I'm going to have you guys log in, and I'm going to give you the credentials and all that stuff. But for right now, this is going to be a quick demo. So just bear with me while I log in here. And I'm actually going to change my environment. I'm going to go to our Sumo Logic demo environment. So here in the Sumo Logic demo environment, I can, you can, we can go in here to this SIEM demo, and I can go into security demo 3.0, and you'll see that regardless of the platform, could be Azure, could be AWS, we have built dashboards. And so here, if I click on the security overview dashboard for AWS, I can see where my users are logging in from. And if I'm a worldwide company, this probably makes excellent sense. By the way, if I look, for example, here at the United States, I see I got 350 across the United States. Well, let's break that down. As we zoom in and double click here, I can start seeing where folks are specifically logging in from. So I can start just drilling in down here and seeing specifically where folks are logging in from if I want to. I can zoom in and zoom out as I see fit. Okay. Well, a question, can we connect Office 365 GCC High to Sumo Logic? I don't know. I know we can connect to Office 365. I'm not sure what the GCC High is. Just bear with me, and I'll show you where the app is and that sort of thing. Just try to help you out. So I'm not sure. Okay. Over here, I can look at various IP addresses that come in. And as I said before, I can send them to CrowdStrike. And in this case, over the last 60 minutes, we had found that there's one IP address which has been recognized as a high malicious confidence. It's got a security concern, and it's been accessing our logs and environments and stuff for 116 times. So that's something I'd certainly want to investigate from a security perspective. Okay. Again, VJ asked a question here: which features of Sumo Logic are different from CloudWatch? We also can ingest CloudWatch logs and things like that, but CloudWatch is, I think the question is more of a scope beyond AWS. So we can typically ingest and see everything. CloudWatch can see typically the features of AWS. So good question. I'm sure I can probably find a sales engineer who could go into more detail on that, but I can't right now. Over here, I see in the last 3 hours, a user has logged in, but they've logged in from 2 different IP addresses. When we look these IP addresses up, we can see one's based in the US, one's based in Egypt. And the distance, of course, is this many thousand kilometers. And so the point is that within 3 hours, this doesn't make sense, right? Now, it could be somebody who's pen testing, and therefore there may be VPN or something like that. So there could be a valid reason for this. But the point is, I want to be able to see users over a period of time, could be 3 hours, 6 hours, whatever, that are logging in from multiple IP addresses that are so geographically dispersed, it doesn't make sense, right? So you can see information like that. By the way, in any of these queries, if I wanted to, I can open them up and I can look at the underlying query that makes this up. And so in our training and our normal certification classes, this is where we get into learning about how to write those types of queries. So down here, I can see my network traffic based on my S3 bucket. And of course, down here, I have a legend that I can click on, and I can then filter and see the data that I want to see or not want to see, that sort of thing, turn it on, turn it off. Here is my AWS Guard Duty logs, again, for the last 60 minutes. And again, if I want to change that window, I certainly can. Here I'm looking at my VPC flow data, and what I'm looking here is an outlier diagram. So what I have here is my line, which denotes my data. And then I have a cloud, which is a part of the outlier function that we have. How many standard deviations do you want to go plus or minus? And then if I have a data point outside of the cloud, obviously that's an outlier and probably something I want to look into. Over here, I can see my firewall traffic. I can see I'm obviously receiving a lot of traffic compared to what I send. So if I turn off my bytes received and only look at my bytes sent, I can again see if there's any abnormalities, traffic, and things along those lines. Down here, I can see what's going on with my anti-malware. So I can see if my anti-malware is cleaning things, deleting things, quarantine things. Do I see a sudden spike? That sort of thing, as well as any security issues, integrity monitoring, and see if I have low, medium, high, or critical issues here that I need to attend to. So this is just an example of a dashboard that you and I can use to get a sense on security. And in Sumo Logic, as I mentioned before, in the app catalog here, by the way, this is our navigation panel. And when you go into a Sumo Logic environment, it's not open, just go ahead and click up here. It'll open it right up. And like I said, here's my navigation panel, which is our shared folder, common area that we can all see. Here's a personal area where you and I can create things, and we can share them with others if we want. Here we can bookmark things as favorites. Here we can look at recently shared with me or things that are recently opened by me. And then down here is our main menu. In our main menu, as I said before, if I click on my app catalog, here I can break things down a little bit. So for example, I'm thinking about compliance and security. Here are all the built-in applications we have with regards to compliance and security. And if I were to look, for example, here at the Amazon Guard Duty environment here, I can see some examples of some dashboard information it's going to provide for me. So the point is that, you and I can see basically what's going on. Okay. And we can install apps that have pre-built queries, pre-built searches, and pre-built alerts that you and I can take advantage of as well. Okay. I'm going to switch back to the training environment because in a few minutes, you and I are going to log in there. So I'm going to go to a different environment, a training environment. I'm going to close up all these tabs that I've got open just because I don't need them. I was playing around earlier. And let's get back to our slideshow. Okay. So what we want you to do is we want you to log into our training environment now. Okay. So what I want you to do is fire up Google Chrome or Firefox. And I'd like you to type in for the URL service.sumologic.com. Again, that's service.sumologic.com. While you're doing that, let me enable some microphones here for some folks who are joining us. The second thing I'd like you to do is I would also like you to pick a 3-digit number, anywhere from 001 to 999. And I'd like you to type that in the chat box. Okay, so pick a 3-digit number, any 3-digit number that you want. Some of you probably always wanted to be 007, so here's your chance. You can be 007. Okay, but type them in the chat box. Thank you, Mohammed and Jeff, so I can make sure we don't have too many duplicates. Okay, and what you're going to do when you get to this website is it's going to ask you to log in with an email address and the password. The email address is going to be training plus analyst with that 3-digit number at sumologic.com. So let me stop the slides for just a second. And let's get us logged in here. So if you don't mind, let me go ahead and pin this down. Let me go back to my Sumo Logic environment. Let me log out. So here in our training environment, when you go to service.sumologic.com, it's going to take you here. Okay. And you can log in today, tomorrow, next week, I don't care, as training plus analyst. I'm going to grab 603. In case you're curious why I grabbed 603, that's the area code for the state of New Hampshire. So that's why I grabbed it. And at sumologic.com, it's got to be an email address. And then the password is, and let me show it to you as I type it. The password is capital FIREWORKS with an exclamation mark. Fireworks. It's summertime. What the heck? We're in July. This password, by the way, changes every month, the first Monday of the month. The current password just got changed on July 4th, and so it's good for a little while. When you click sign up, it should let you log right in here. And again, it may have some tabs open here. All right. So what I'd like you to do, if you're logged in here and you're able to log in here, I'd like you in the participants area to go ahead and raise your hand. I want to make sure everybody who wants to log in can log in. If you're having problems logging in, please let me know. Now, one other little thing I'm going to do here, and that is in the chat box here, I'm going to upload a document. This document is our lab guide. So all of the exercises I'm going to walk you through are in this lab guide, and you should be able to go into the chat box, see that document, and download that document. Now, if for some reason your company doesn't let you share documents through Zoom, and they've disabled that, I need you to send me your email address, and I will email it to you first chance I get. Okay. Now, what this document is, and if you'll bear with me, let me maximize that. Let me go out here and grab this document. This document has all the exercises that we're going to do over the next hour and a half. So the first thing it's got here is the ability for you to log in. We did, yes. Then we're going to look at AWS guard duties. So we're going to take a look at this particular application, and we're going to play with it. Okay, so that's going to be our next activity. But before I do that, I want to make sure those of you who want to get logged in and play have the opportunity to log in and play. So if you're having any problems, please let me know. If you are able to log in, please raise your hand in the participants window. That way I know that you're in. And I'll give it a minute or so here to get cracking, and then we'll move slightly forward. Again, if you're having problems or issues, let me know. Link to the document. Jefferson, it should be in the chat box. If you don't see it in the chat box, Jefferson, I need you to send to host and panelists your email address, and I will email it out. Okay, first chance I get. So, but hopefully you see it there. Okay.
You talking about the Zoom chat box?
Yep.
No.
So type it in the chat box. Yeah.
Yeah. My Zoom chat, I just see host and panelist. The different.
I'm sorry, you can't download it?
No, I don't see the in the Zoom chat. I do not see a link.
Okay. Do you see the document?
I see it on the screen.
Okay, hold on. Let me add it again. So it should be right at the end of the chat box. Here it is. I just uploaded it. Should be able to click on it. It should automatically download.
Well,
okay. If you don't see the document, here, what you need to do is you need to put in the chat box your email address. Because what happens is your company has turned off the ability in Zoom to share files. Which is not a big deal. So Barrett, if you can't see it, I need you to send to host and panelist.
To him. Well, why aren't you got mine set up as my name? Well, I just want you to focus on cybersecurity. Girl, he done changed all that foolery.
Ma'am, is there a question? Okay. So just bear with me a second here real quick while I quickly.
We don't see the document, John.
I understand. I'm going to sit there and grab my email here. I'm going to email it to you. So just bear with me a second. What you are seeing is my email coming up right now. And I apologize for the fact that some of you right now are going to see emails, and there's no easy way to.
Right. Well, see, I haven't looked up none of y'all. I just piggyback because I really, that one was sufficient, but what the piggyback off of the meeting you had already set up, because that's brainstorming. And like I said, I repaired.
Hey, Chandra, you got it mic.
Because we are a team collaborating on this. So I wanted everybody to see, hey, okay, Chandra got her too. Let me, and that, just like I'm telling you, I talked to him. That'll still them to say, okay, let's get the ball running. You know, we need.
There we go. Okay. There we go. Just bear with me a second, folks, while I get this stuff done here. Don't want to leave anybody behind. By the way, I will be obviously showing you what I'm doing here. So if you want to follow along, you can certainly do that too. Okay. You got that one? No, yeah, I do. Good. You know what I got. Already there. Okay, I think I've just about got them all. Oops. All right. All right, so that should be going out right now. And so give it a minute, you should get it. But as I mentioned before, I'll be walking you through this as we go forward. Okay. So thank you for your patience, and let's go ahead and let's talk about activity one. In activity one, in our document here, it wants us to go into the shared library folder. And it wants us to find this global intelligence for AWS, for Amazon Guard Duty, excuse me. So here in our Sumo Logic environment, if the navigation panel is not open, go ahead and open it up. There's a bunch of tabs open. I'll tell you how to clear that up in just a second. But over here, this folder icon on the right is the shared library. And what we're looking for is this folder called Global Intelligence for Amazon GuardDuty. And if you open that up, you'll see there's these three icons here, which are three dashboards and a query right there. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at these three dashboards. They're labeled GuardDuty 01, GuardDuty 02, GuardDuty 03. So when I click on GuardDuty 01 Global Baseline, this shows me across the world what GuardDuty, AWS GuardDuty is showing as far as threat mixes and what's going on here. Okay. Thanks, VJ. Just give me a second here. All right. So that takes care of that. Now, so here we are back in the lab. So I can see my threat mixes. I can see what kind of attacks we're getting, backdoor behavior, cryptocurrency, all that sort of thing. And again, this is a dashboard. This is an application that you can install. And this is going on, not for my company, not for your company, but this is going on worldwide. I can also see what they're trying to target. For example, a lot of folks are trying to target the IAM user accounts. Some folks are trying to attack Kubernetes, S3, EC2, so forth and so on. I can also see the types and severity of the scores. And I can see geographically where these attacks are coming from. So here in good old New York is getting attacked by this green line here, and I can follow it out and see the tooltip and see what's going on. So this is just giving me an idea of what's happening across the world. And of course, I can go down here and also see any rare threats that are suddenly coming up or whatever. Now, this is nice to know information, but it really doesn't compare with my company. It's really not specific to my company and my needs. Okay. So what I want to do is switch to perhaps the next dashboard. And here we can see our AWS GuardDuty information coming from AWS, and we can also see it comparing to our company. So here in my company, I see that I've got some behavior type threats. In fact, recently, I didn't have a whole lot of behavior type threats until in the last couple of days. So my behavior type threats are suddenly gone up. I can see how I'm doing on those behaviors. I can see, what type of behaviors here, and then I can look into it in more detail. So I can click here to link to the findings and see what's going on. I can see what kind of threats, low, medium, or high, that sort of thing. And if I want to, I can even move on to sheet 3, which goes into more detail about my particular company's situation. So here, again, as I said, I can see I've got a bunch of behavioral issues. One little thing of an unauthorized access, and my unauthorized access here. And so I can see where this is coming from. Get an idea of what's happening here. Oops, excuse me, I'm just trying to scroll down. And get an idea where the account ID issues are, what sort of issues am I seeing? I can see my threats as far as how if I'm seeing a sudden spike in threat or not seeing a sudden spike in threat, where my threats are coming based on region, US East 1, US West 1, whatever. So this gives you some information here that you can work off of. I can work off of. And so we can use that as a starting point. Okay. All right. Now, that was activity 1. We simply wanted to show you what is in that AWS GuardDuty Global Intelligence dashboard. And that's basically what we were doing there. Okay. And so that pretty much wraps up activity number 1. Now, you can, I can, we can install a threat intel app for AWS. We have a built-in threat intel app for AWS that you and I can install. Now, I need to mention to you this screenshot is a little out of date. All right. So bear with me when we do this. So I want everybody to go back to Sumo Logic in the training environment. I want you to go to the app catalog. Again, if you need to open up this navigation panel, just click anywhere up here. Go to your app catalog, start typing in threat, and it should start filtering things down. And as you can see, we've got a couple of things with the word threat in them. We want threat intel for AWS. This is an AWS session, so let's talk about AWS. If I click on this app, down here, I can see the information that this dashboard is going to tell me. It's going to tell me about Amazon VPC flow logs. It's going to tell me about AWS CloudTrail data, AWS Elastic Load Balancing. So it gives me an idea of what's happening. Now, here's where we kind of deviate from the directions. So in the paper directions, it tells us to go ahead and click add to library. Well, add to library doesn't exist. We've changed this button. Instead of saying add to library, we now have add to integration. Why? Because we want to make it easy for you to install this. So this add integration now says, okay, what is it that you need? If we need to set up a collector, we would have a chance to set up that collector. We already have the collectors set up. So that's why we're not being asked to set up a collector. A collector is how we ingest those logs from your AWS environment into the Sumo Logic environment. Now here, what we want to do is we want to tell it CloudTrail, where the CloudTrail logs are. When you create a collector and a source, you give that source a source category. So in our case, our source category starts with labs/AWS/ and I want to type in the word CloudTrail by itself. CloudTrail by itself. You'll see I've got a whole bunch of CloudTrails. This is the one that I want, this CloudTrail by itself. Okay. And you can click on it if you want to just type it in, that's fine. So I'm telling it, when it looks at my CloudTrail data, this is where my data is coming from. That's what that source is called. When I look for my VPC logs, again, it's called lab/AWS/ and then I want VPC, which is in this case, in my case, it's the second one listed here. For my ELB, now, if you don't have in your company some of these sources, it's okay. You don't have to configure them all. Just understand that some of the dashboards might be blank. But for my ELB, I type in labs/AWS/ELB, and I want the ELB without the metric. And so I'm basically telling it what sources, what log sources I'm using here. And then in the folder name, just to be clear here and to show you there's no magic, okay, I'm going to type in my initials. You can type in your initials too if you want. And I'm also going to put in today's date. So today is the 12th, 07/12. By default, this is going to put this in your personal folder, which is perfectly fine, well and good. And so now when I click next, after I've got this all filled in, when I click next, it's going to create and install this app and connect it to that data. So here in a minute, I should see a message that says, yep, we're all good. Okay, good. Success. So now if I click on my personal folder, that's this one with the head, you will now see you have this new folder. And if you type in your initials, whatever you called it, that's what it's going to be called. Now in here, I can look at my threat intel for AWS overview. And here, if I give it a second or two to settle out, I can now see my scanned events over time, where they're coming from. I can select different or filter out different things if I want. So I can select the different things that I want to see. I can see how many events over the last 24 hours I've gotten through CloudTrail, through VPC, through my elastic load balancers. And I can see my threats over time. And I can see an outlier diagram. And if I wanted to go into more detail, maybe on my CloudTrail logs, I can open up this threat intel for AWS CloudTrail. And now I can look at my threats by geographic, threats by events or IP, threats over time, all that fun stuff. So hopefully you see it's not difficult to, if you've got these log sources set up, to just go ahead and install these applications and go to town. Any questions so far? All right. Oh, is there a raised hand? If you got a question, go ahead and just ask your question if you want. Make sure his mic's enabled. So, any questions? Go ahead and ask. Either type them in chat or unmute your mic and ask your question directly. Okay. All right. One thing, for those of you who've got a bunch of tabs open here now, like I do, it's real simple. You could theoretically close them all one at a time by clicking on the Xbox. That's no fun. On any one of these tabs, you'll see these three vertical dots. And if you click on any tab with the three vertical dots, you'll see you have an option to close all tabs. That's much easier. That closes them up. Again, you haven't deleted anything, you just closed up the tabs. So if you want to go back in, you can open those tabs back up. By the way, because you've installed this on your computer and your account stuff, you'll find that you can still share it with others. So you can share it with your teammates and stuff if you want, or you can talk to your administrator about moving it out here to your shared library. All right. So VJ asked a really good question here. How do you create additional dashboards for some non-standard metrics? Good question, VJ. Although I'm going to talk about how to create an additional dashboard. As far as non-standard metrics, we can have that conversation offline, but we typically do support a lot of different metrics and stuff like that. So I'm going to show you a simple log query, and we're going to count and aggregate stuff like that and build additional dashboards and stuff as we need to. So I will answer part of that question. If you want to talk more deeply about the unstandardized metrics, we can do that. But back to my document here. Again, here's activity 2. That's what we just did. Again, I apologize. There's a little change here. Now for activity 3, here's where we don't have a built-in dashboard. Here's where we want to create some sort of a query. Okay. So you can, I can, we can. You'll see here's my code right there. You can swipe over that code if you want to with your cursor in the book and the PDF. You can then right click and copy that code. And then here to create that query, you click this new blue button, and you click log search. If you want to create a log query, it's a log search. You want to create a metric query, it's metrics. So I create a log query. In this case, I paste that information in. Now, if you hit the enter key, what happens is it goes out and runs the query, which is okay, but I want to add some more code here. If we go back and look at the next page, there's some additional code here that we want to incorporate, okay? So let me swipe over and grab this code in the document. Let me copy it. Oops, excuse me. Notice my blue shading went away. Copy it. Now, in order to go and add a new line to our Query Explorer, if you're on a Mac keyboard, you can do a Shift Enter. If you're on a Windows keyboard, it should be an Alt Enter. Alt Return. And that would allow you to move your cursor to the next line. Then you can paste in your code. I see I grabbed a couple of characters here that I didn't want to grab, so let me simply delete those. And so what we have here is we have a query, and the first line says limit only one result. And basically I can put in here an IP address, and I'm going to call that and give it a name called my threat. Then I am going to look up, I mentioned that we have a relationship with CrowdStrike. So we can send this information to CrowdStrike. We're going to send this IP address to CrowdStrike, and we're going to get back the type, the actor, the operator, all kinds of information about this. So let me just, for fun, comment out these next two lines. And to comment out a line in our code is real simple, 2 forward slashes. Or if you want to put a space in there, you can. You don't have to, but you can. So again, 2 forward slashes. And if I run this, if I click this execute button or hit the enter key on my keyboard, I can see here my lookup. Here's my malicious confidence low. Here's the threat. Here's the raw information we got back from CrowdStrike, so I can parse out some more of these fields if I want to. And then here is the message. Now, if, and by the way, we did ask for an actor, but it doesn't know who the actor is for this, so we got a null back. If malicious confidence is set, if malicious confidence is null, then we're going to create a new field here called data exists. And we're going to put the word value of no in there. Otherwise, we're going to put the value of yes in there. So if I uncomment out this line by getting rid of my 2 forward slashes and run this again, I now have a new field in here called data exists. And in my case, since my malicious confidence is not null, it's going to put this value to yes. If it was null, it would put the value to no. And these values and these fields you see listed here are listed here alphabetically. So you can use the fields command to change that. And that's basically what this is doing. So I can very easily take this, and now I've changed the order of things. So I now see the threat, data exists, malicious confidence, who the actor is, that sort of thing. Now I can also, if I want to, take this and I can turn this into a parameter. So I can change the value of that IP address. The user can change the value of the IP address and rerun this query from time to time with different IP addresses. I'm going to go back and I'm going to answer a question that was asked earlier by VJ. And that is, how can I turn this into a dashboard? Well, what I need to do is I need to have some form of aggregation in here. Let me give you a better example. Let me give you a better example than this. Bear with me a second. Source category equals lab slash Apache slash access. And I want to count by source IP. Now you made, again, I'm telling it where to grab the data from, okay? And then I want to grab it by source IP. How did I know that source IP field existed? Under my messages tab, there are a bunch of fields here. And I know that that field exists. I can click and see the top 10 values in that field, but I want it to count by those different IP addresses. And that's what gives me my aggregates tab. So here I see the IP addresses. Here I see the count. If I want to, I can add another command here, another pipe. We connect our commands together with pipes. And I can say sort by or order by, and I want to do it by count_count. This count up here, and I'm not trying to get too involved here, but this count is an operator. It counts things. Think of a teacher in the classroom counting students. 1, 2, 3, 4. This underscore count is the result of that count. And that's what I want to sort it by. And I want to sort it in descending order. So now it's going to put this in descending order. And just for fun, maybe, just maybe, I'm going to add another filter here. And I want to filter it where underscore count is greater than, I'll say 500. Helps if I use the right symbol there, greater than 500. And I think I put a space in there by accident. There we go. So again, if I look at these numbers, I will see from this number up. So I can filter very quickly and see the numbers I'm looking at. Then if I want to, here in my aggregates tab, I can turn this into a pie chart or a bar chart or whatever the heck I want. And to make it into a dashboard, I simply click add to dashboard, give my panel a name. And what dashboard do I want to use? Since I want to create a new dashboard, I'll start with my initials. By the way, I'm going way off the directions here. So, I start with my initials here and call this client IP information. Now, as I start typing this thing in, it starts to go through all the existing dashboards. And if it can find one that matches that text, it'll give it to me in a drop-down list. But ultimately what I want is I don't have one named that. So it says, do you want to create a new dashboard? And that's exactly what I want to do. I want to create a new dashboard. It's going to put it in my personal folder. And I'm going to use this new dashboard interface, which I'll explain in just a minute. And now when I click add, it's now going to take this query and it's going to add it to my dashboard. And if I want to adjust this a little bit better to make it more readable, I can do that. Now, the cool thing about these new dashboards is I can add my queries from here. So I can add a time series query, a text query, a honeycomb query, a map query right from here if I want to. Additionally, I can go back to this query here that I created. I can comment out, oops, excuse me. I can comment out my last where clause here. So I see all of my 500, all of my IP addresses, and I can add this one to the dashboard as well. The only trick is I have to make sure I use that same name. So I'm going to say JWM, client IP, click add, and voila, I have now added this to that dashboard as well. So hopefully, Vijay, that gives you an idea of how easy it is to do this stuff. Okay. All right. Any questions so far? Okay. You're welcome. All right. So that takes us to activity 4. And here in activity 4, we've got a nice query that we can run on looking at some CloudTrail data. So I'm going to take this lovely query here in activity 4, I'm going to swipe over it all. I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to go back out here and I'm going to add a new log search. And I'm going to paste that stuff in, right? Standard paste commands. Now, you're probably wondering, what is this thing doing? Well, it's looking at my CloudTrail logs, and it's only looking for those that have the word console login in them. Because I want to see that they logged in from the console, not from an API. Then I'm going to extract out certain fields. So let me take and comment out these rows here. Now you could, if you want to, add 2 double slashes, or another way to do a bunch of lines if you want to. If you put your cursor up here, and on a Mac keyboard, if you hold down the Option key, your cursor should change to a plus sign. If on a Windows key, you hold down the Alt key, your cursor should change to a plus sign. And then if you drag a line down, you'll see a little line forms there. And whatever you type is going to go across all of those lines. So in my case, I'll type in 2 forward slashes. And I have effectively commented out all of those lovely lines. So what I've done here is I have grabbed my console login messages from my CloudTrail data for the last 15 minutes. By the way, I can change this if I want. I'm going to extract out some fields. So here's my additional event data. Here's my account resource name. Here's my console login. They success or they failed. Here's my event name, here's my event source, event type, all that stuff. And all the way over here to the right is the original message. Okay. Now what I want to do is I want to count by the account resource name and the source IP. What I'm trying to do here is I want to look and see if somebody's logged in from multiple IP addresses. Okay. And sure enough, I have good old B. Smith here, who's logged in from various different IP addresses. Now, what I want to do here is I really want a count of all the different IP addresses. And while I could take and sum these counts up, what I really want to do is, again, these all have to be Smith. That's fine. I could do that. But if they were a different user, I want to break them up by user. So what we're simply doing here is we're going to go ahead and sort this by account resource name. So that's displayed first and sorted. So I can see if I have B. Smith, and then if I have somebody else, I can see on page 2 or page 3, you know, if I have other users. Then we are going to set a field called row number. We're going to set the value equal to 1. So when I run this line, I've got a field called row num, and it's got lines, you know, ones come on all the way down there. Then I want to add up my row num. I'm going to do a total. Could have done a count, sum, min, max, whatever. I'm going to do a total row number by account resource name. So if I had another resource in here besides B. Smith, you know, Fred Flintstone, I would see how many that B. Smith had, how many Fred Flintstone had, and so forth and so on. Then I also want to filter out where my total is basically equal to 0, right? I want to see those accounts where users logged in from more than one IP address. That's what that filter is doing. Now, in looking at this information, I need to know who the account resource name is. I need to know the IP address, and I probably want to know the total. I don't care about this count or row num. So this fields command is removing those two fields. And so now I'm left with this information. So now I can look up B. Smith, see what B. Smith's doing, talk to B. Smith. Why are they sitting there logging in from all these different IP addresses? Maybe they're part of our security team. Maybe they're helping. Maybe their accounts got compromised. Somebody's logging in as B. Smith all over the place. Now, keep in mind that to set these classes up that we do and everything else, we teach them more information about this. We obviously have some, you know, security issues and some security problems here, so that we have generated. So that's an example of trying to find out if a user is logged in with different IP addresses. Now, one other thing I can do, which is kind of fun, I'm going to add some commands to this. So just bear with me a second. I'm going to add some commands to this. Again, it's a Shift Enter and Alt Enter to get to that new line. And I am going to, these lines can be all on the same line or they can be on separate lines. Doesn't make any difference. But what I want to do now is I want to see where they're logged in from by latitude and longitude. And because I have latitude and longitude and count, I can click on this icon and convert this to a map. So now I can see where this B. Smith user has been logging on from across the world. And obviously, this doesn't make any sense. You know, either I've got a security issue or they're VPN and other things, or I don't know what the heck's going on, but I certainly want to investigate. So this is part of the partnership we have with Newstar. So you can display things on a map. Now, good news. That pretty much takes care of the Cloud SIEM product powered by AWS. The next hour, we're going to talk about the Cloud SIEM Advanced product powered by AWS. Okay. So, but before we do that, I thought you might want a 5-minute break. So let me go back here. Let me open up a quick little slide here. And let's take a quick 5-minute break. And I'll see you back when this timer gets to 0. So take a break. And I'll see you back here in about 4 minutes and 53 seconds. Okay, folks, hopefully we are all back and ready to roll. So you have seen the Cloud SIEM component powered by AWS. Now we're going to focus on the Cloud SIEM Advanced powered by AWS. And just to make it easy for ourselves, again, we should be on this page right here of our document. Thought we had page numbers in there. It's right after activity 4. Should be about the halfway through the point of the document. But to get here and to get where we want to go, again, good idea, probably close up all these tabs. So I'm going to go up here and say close tab, close all tabs. And then to get into this Cloud SIEM Enterprise, right? And again, SIEM standing for Security, Information, and Event Management. If you click on Cloud SIEM Enterprise, that will take you into our Cloud SIEM Enterprise environment. Again, we at Sumo call this Cloud SIEM. AWS has repackaged it as Cloud SIEM Advanced. So that's the difference. Now, when you look here, it's like, wow, what am I looking at? Well, let's take a peek. So over here, here's my selector where I can select my range window. How much data do I want to look back here? 24 hours, 2 days, 7 days, what? In those 24 hours in this case, I have ingested 46,000 records. That's down a little bit from the previous 24 hours. I've generated 53 signals. Well, what's a signal? I'll get there in just a second. It's down 10%, and I've generated 3 insights. So what's an insight? So let's talk about those things. Let's talk about how this process happens. So if you'll bear with me a second, I'm going to go back to my slides. And I'm going to go to this slide right here. Okay. The way things work in our Cloud SIEM Advanced data pipeline, we ingest logs, just like we did before. CloudTrail logs, guard duty logs, all kinds of logs. And we ingest them through our collection and through our ingestion process, like we normally do. And that generates something here called a message. Okay. Now we're going to take this message and we're going to parse out certain fields from that message. So we're going to parse out the IP address, the host name, the type of threat, all kinds of different fields in here. And we're going to map them to known fields inside of this Cloud SIEM Advanced product. We're also going to enrich this. We're going to go to CrowdStrike and we're going to look up the IP address or the domain name or whatever to see if it's a known threat. That generates something called records. So earlier I had mentioned that in our environment here, excuse me, in our environment that we had a bunch of records. So my records are basically the results of parsing, mapping, and enriching. Now I'm going to take these records and I'm going to compare them to a bunch of different rules that we have. Now these are rules based on the MITRE ATT&CK framework. So if a rule matches the record, then we will extract the entity and we will generate something called a signal. So what happens is these rules are written to detect problems, security violations, issues. You know, a user, somebody's trying to log in with a disabled account. That's an example of a rule. When I parse through a record, if that record matches that rule, I'm going to extract out the entity, who the user ID was or whatever, and I'm going to generate a signal. So signals are known problems. Signals are things that we want to worry about. Now, most SIEM solutions stop there, but ours is going to go a little bit farther. Each one of these rules has a score associated with it. And we're going to sit there and look over a 2-week period based on the entity. The entity is the host name, the IP, the source name, you know, some aspect of who. And by looking at the entity over a 2-week period of time, if the score from these rules is 12 or greater, then we're going to generate an insight. And so the insight is designed to reduce the analyst fatigue. So the insight can make it easy for us to see where our threats are coming. So now, if I stop this for a second, go back to my Sumo Logic environment. These are how many records we've ingested over the last 24 hours. These are how many signals out of those records that we've seen in the last 24 hours. And here are my insights. We've generated 3 insights. Now, built into this product, we can see how we're doing on resolving these things. How many did we get? How many did we respond to? How many are remediated? Okay. And I can put my cursor over the side to see what those values are. Now, again, this is a training environment. So we don't typically go in here and resolve something until we do a class. So if you see these numbers looking a little weak, it's because we don't get in here unless we have a class. Now, insight by status, I have 3 new insights. I have 0 in progress, or custom. You can change these statuses. You can customize these statuses. So if your company has a SWAT team that they want to send this to and add that as a status, if you want to outsource it to whatever third-party vendor, you can modify these statuses. So far, I have 3 new insights. Down here, I have a timeline, and I can see when these insights appeared over my last 24 hours. Okay. Now, the thing that probably caught your eye was this all-seeing eye, or this heads-up display. Okay. And you'll see it automatically refreshes. And it does. So here's my 24 hours, right? Going back. And then on the outside ring, these are my records. These light green, bluish columns here are my signals. And then the red things are my insights. And I can click on an insight here if I want to, or I will always see the latest insight that's generated over here. So when I look at an insight, it's automatically numbered, and it's named based on the MITRE ATT&CK framework. So this happens to be a command and control issue. I also can see who the entity is. It's Rico Dynamite, the username Rico Dynamite. And then in here, I can see my timeline across my x-axis. I can see my threat score across my y-axis. And so this has 3 signals. One signal's right there. The next signals were right there. The final signals were right there. So I can see when these signals occurred and their relative importance. And if I wanted to, I could go into this particular insight and see what's going on. But my goal right now is to give you an overview of this interface. We'll look at insights in just a minute. By the way, if you do click on insights to go in someplace, if you're clicking around here and you look and you want to get back here, simply click on the upper left-hand corner where the Sumo Logic icon is. Click on that, and it will take you back to this screen. Down below here is my syslog. So I can see everybody who's started accessing an insight and what they're, they changed the status, they did anything. I will see that information here as well. Up here, of course, I can search for things if I want to. I can also focus on looking specifically at insights. So here I can see all the insights we've received. Okay. I can see all the signals that have been generated. I can filter for 7 days in this case. I can see all the entities. So I can look by entity here if I want to. And they're sorted by default by their scores. So this is my most highest threat, if you will. I can also look at my records. And then here, depending on your privileges, is where you can add your own rules, do some rule tuning and all that fun stuff. Over here, this bell ring, this little bell with the icon means that we've received a notification from Sumo Logic. I mentioned there's several hundred rules in here. We maintain those rules. We update those rules about every 2 weeks, unless there's something urgent that comes out, in which case we'll do it a lot sooner. So I can click in here and I can see what changes that we've made. I can go in here, you can go in here and see what rules we've modified, what things we've changed. If we create the rules, we maintain them. If you want to go in here and create your own rules, you're going to be responsible to maintain those yourself. Okay. Over here is our documentation and all that good stuff. Here, I can switch back to our Cloud SIEM, if you will. It takes me back to the Sumo Logic interface. Okay, it's this great icon, graded icon, if you will. And then over here, I can see who I'm logged in as. Okay. All right. So that's activity 1. I'm sorry. Yeah, in activity 1, what we want to do is we want to just give you an idea of the interface, okay? Toggle between the boards and the views and stuff like that. Also, while I'm here, let's go into Insight for a second. So if I go into my insights, I can see, you may see something different than I see. You may see this. So you can see a listing of your insights with the most recent insights first. Or if you click on this icon, you can see them by their status. And if I want to move one from one status to another, I can simply drag and drop it. Or I can go to the insights, you'll find there's a status field, I can fill out whatever. We wanted to give you a little overview here of this tool. By the way, we normally teach this tool in a 3-hour class. There's actually 2 3-hour classes. There's a Cloud SIEM analyst class where we teach you how to interact with the insights and create rules and some rule tuning and stuff like that. Then there's a Cloud SIEM admin, and we do it from the perspective of being the administrator, setting up the data in here and all that good stuff. So there's 2 different 3-hour courses. It's 2 hours of lecture and lab and an hour of certification test. And then we also, earlier when I was doing the analytics stuff, that's also a 3-hour class for us. So there's a total of 3 different courses here that you can take. And I'll show you where you can find more information about that later. All right, so activity 2, what they want us to do is they want us to go grab and navigate to an insight called persistence with initial access. So in my insights, I don't care if I'm looking at this view or this view, it makes no difference. I'm going to go ahead and create a filter, and I'm going to filter based on the name. So I'm going to click filter here, click on name, and I'm going to say contains, and I'm going to start typing in the word persistence. And as I start typing it in, it starts showing me my choices based on the names of insights that it has. We want this top one, persistence with initial access. So here I see all the insights that have persistence with initial access. Now, again, we generate this data every hour or every day. So it comes in, we get these insights. And so I can pick any one of these. They're all going to be identical. But I want us to go ahead and pick insight 15217. 15217, that's the latest one. And if I click on that insight, now I'm looking at the insight. So over here, I can take various actions of that insight. Once I resolve it, I can close it. And if you have permissions, you can delete it, but you don't have permissions to delete it. You also might notice that next to these labels, there's this little icon. This is my context action. And I can click on my context action, and there's some things that I can do. For example, I can search in Sumo Logic for anything that says persistence with initial access. Down here where my IP address is, again, I have a context window. I can click on that and I can do a whois lookup on that IP address. Or again, I can look on the Sumo Logic log search to see if that IP address is being used, where that IP address has been going, basically in my environment. I can change its status in here. So I told you we can modify the status. We can drag and drop it. We can also change it here. I can also assign this. This is an event management system. So I can assign it to some user here if I want to. I can see the score of the insight. Insights are scored low, medium, high, and critical. The actual signals all have a numeric value, but the insight is low, medium, high, or critical. And then I can see information about this insight. I can see the tactics and techniques tags associated from MITRE ATT&CK. So again, we use the MITRE ATT&CK framework to establish our rules and all that stuff. And those are associated with known tactics and techniques. And so when we create these insights, they automatically have those there. You can add documentation to this. So again, this is an event management system. So as I resolve this, fix it, whatever, I want to put comments in here. And obviously we can keep track of those comments. This is where you put comments on resolving the insight. You document this. Now on the right side over here, I've got my events. This happens to be a threat intel event. I'll get to it in a second. And then over here, I've got 2 other blue events. Those blue events were created based on a rule. Now there are 3 signals that make this up. I think it's 4 signals make this up, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'll see them down here. All the signals that make this up, I will see. Now these are the signals that make this up. And again, they are listed to me from earliest to latest. So first thing that happened is when I go into the signal, I can click on this signal and I can see this signal has a weight of 3. Device IP matched a threat intel file hash. So what happens here is it looks like this IP address has on it a file that has been recognized by its file hash and the antivirus system as a known threat. Okay. And if we want to look more about that threat, I can click on this link, or again, I can go to my Context Explorer and look around there. But here's the, it's looking, and again, the first thing that most cretins do is they rename the file name. So, we don't care. We go by the file hash, right? And I can see all the fields it's extracted, all the information about this particular field. Where was it? What file name, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we have a situation where somebody got a bad file on their computer. Great. Now I could, if I want to, go back to my signals and I can move to the next signal. Or I can simply click on this right arrow over here. And I take that right arrow, it's going to take me to my next signal. So here I've got a user receives an email with a phishing link. Okay. And if I look through the phishing link information, I see that they clicked on it. Okay. So again, you can see that a user clicked on a phishing email link. And so thank you very much, user. Okay. And then I get another message. This is from Checkpoint. So Checkpoint is telling us they found a malicious file. So again, and then finally, CrowdStrike, again, notice the file here as well. So these four things are all about this particular IP address or this particular host name or this particular entity, whatever. And so I can see that somebody got a bad file. Maybe they brought it in from the thumb drive or whatever. That resulted in a phishing link that's me clicked on. That looks like it helped promulgate or try to promulgate the file, send it to a domain controller. And so I've got an idea here what to do. So the next question is, what would you and your company do with regards to this information? I would assume somebody from the IT department or the network operations center would isolate that machine off the network. Somebody would scrub that machine, anti-malware software, antivirus software. Maybe we want to talk to that user and say, what have they been clicking? What have they been doing? Maybe we want to send an email to all company to remind them about phishing links, right? And so then eventually you're going to bring the machine back online, back in service, and you will in fact resolve this. So again, here in your insight, you would comment the actions that you take. Now, maybe the actions you take require you to communicate with others. So here you can customize this action button, and you can, log a Jira ticket, or you can log a, PagerDuty, or send it to Teams or Slack or whatever you want. So you can customize that if you need to, as far as what actions you need to take with regards to this insight. But that's how we and I and you and I investigate an insight. Makes it a lot easier than having to look at log data, right? We can see the insights and immediately go after the insights. And that's what we're trying to show you here in Activity 2. Okay. Now, one thing, I'm going to go back to my slides here for just a second. One more thing I want to mention here to you, and that is the proverbial day in the life of a SOC analyst, right? So a SOC analyst, comes in, gets seated, has their coffee, whatever, and they pick a priority. Maybe they're assigned the priority, maybe they're assigned the insight, maybe they pick it, whatever. But what they're going to do is they're going to examine the signals that make up that insight. And then they're going to make a conclusion based on what happened, based on those signals. Then they're going to take actions, talk to whomever, maybe the SOC team deals with this, maybe the network operations team deals with this, whatever. And then ultimately what they're going to do is update the status and document it, right? Close it out. And then they're going to go after the next one. And so this is a day in the life of a SOC analyst. This is what they do. And with our tool, you can very easily do that. Questions? All right. A couple things here, and then we will wrap it up. We're going to wrap it up a little early, which is probably, I'm sure, not going to break your hearts. Hold on a second. Oh, I see. Sorry about that, Jeff. Hard stop. Yep. Thank you. So a couple of questions. Number one, how do I find out what training and stuff we have. Okay. Well, you can, of course, fire up your favorite browser, open up a tab, go to our public facing site, sumologic.com. And then underneath here, if you go into resources, learn, you will be able to see what certification classes we have. So here we are in this one today. Here's some of the classes we have next week, week after, and so forth and so on. And if we got August schedule up, it's not in there yet, you'll be able to click on August and September and so forth and so on. So you can see when classes are being offered. Again, these classes are typically 3 hours, 2 hours of lecture and lab, and 1 hour of certification exam. Okay. Will we get a link to this recording? Yes, team, you should get a link to this recording. Yes, we should send you that link. If for some reason you do not get this link, you should. Okay, but if you do not, please send me an email. And my email address in here. But part of the normal registration, post-registration process is once the class is conducted, everybody who attended gets a link to this recording. So if you don't see that link in about 3 days, give me a shout. Okay. Okay. One other question that comes up is, you all, I assume, as AWS customers, have some real interesting capabilities. Let me scroll to the slides I'm looking for here. Not the one I'm looking for. Not the one I'm looking for. Where did this go? Nuts. Hang on. Oh, there we go. That's the one I'm looking for. There we go. Because you guys are AWS customers, or I assume you're AWS customers, you can go to this URL, and if you want, I'll copy it and paste it into the chat box. But you can go to this URL and you can sign up for a free trial copy of Sumo Logic. And you can play with it, and you can take it for test spins, and you can ingest your data, and you can have yourselves a grand old time. So I will take this free trial URL and I will copy it. And I will put it in the chat box. There you go. And so if you want to sign up for a free trial, you are certainly welcome to do so. Okay. Otherwise, the last thing is, if you want to take the certification exam, you don't have to, is again, because you're an AWS partner and we're partnered through AWS, you can go in here and you can go to partner training at sumologic.com, excuse me, partner training.sumologic.com, select sign up, and you're going to need to add an access code. The access code I will give you here in just a second. And if you want to take the exam, you are welcome to. I don't know if you're in an AWS role where you wind up selling Sumo or not, but that'd probably be worthwhile if you're just came out here to see what's going on. I'm not sure that the certification is going to do any good. But you can type in the access code, type in your information here, and then you'll have an account, and then you can go in and take that exam if you want. Okay. So what questions have you, ladies and gentlemen? How can we help you? Well, if there aren't any questions, I will turn on my camera one last time to say thanks a lot for spending the last hour and a half with me. Hope you guys have a great week, and hopefully we'll see you again soon in another class. Please be safe, and thanks a lot for attending. Again, if you're sticking around here to take the exam, let me know. Otherwise, I'll close the classroom. Again, please be safe. Thanks.